Rules for operating. The following instructions are intended to cover the general way of the proper method of handling number 14 EL equipment service and service. Do not apply rigidly to all individual cases or operations. Specific instructions are usually issued by each railroad to cover its own recommended practice in accordance with local operation conditions. Representative of the Westinghouse Air Brake Company. See list of offices in the last page. This will be glad to cooperate with it. Object in the view. Charging. Before starting the air compressor of the locomotive not being coupled to the train, close the drain cocks and the reserved brake pipe cutout cocks and or angle cocks at each end of the locomotive. The cutout cock under the alarm whistle not be used. The double-heading cock under the brake valve not to be operated. Double-ended equipment only. Also, dead engine cutout cocks. See, all the following cutout cocks are open. The main reserve cutout cock, the brake cylinder cutout cock, the cutout cocks under the alarm whistle to be operated. Double-heading cutout cock under the brake valve to operate the distributing valve with the cutout cock and the all brake pipe with the cutout cock. Angle cocks between the cars and locomotives. Set all the handbrakes are fully released. Place the handbrake handles on the brake valve to operate it with the cutout underneath its beginning opening. Move the running position. Do not attempt to move the train or locomotive while the brake pipe gauge hand shows the full brake pipe pressure. It is now that the brakes are cut in and they're operating properly. The instruction manipulating the EL equipment, particularly as those given by the number ET equipment, was standard for the use of the steam locomotive. Therefore, non-radical departure from the present method of manipulation is required to get the desired result. Automatic brake running. When it is not used, carry the full brake valve handles in running position. Services. To apply brakes and service, must move the handle of the automatic brake valve to the service position and make the required brake pipe reduction to the back of the lap of the position with one of the holding of all the brakes is applied. Release. It's a rule safest to come to the stop of the releasing of the brake of the freight train, especially the long one, rather than attempt to release the lower speed. However, if the conditions permit the release while in motion, the brake valve handle should be removed to the release position. They're held there and long enough to move as many as triple valves to release the position as possible without overcharging the head of the end of the train. The time release position should be governed by the length of the train, amount of the reduction may be made, etc. The return of the running position to release the locomotive brakes are completed with the recharging auxiliary reserves. A few seconds after such release, particularly on long trains, if necessary to again move the handle to the release position and quickly back to the running position to kick off any of the brakes at the end of the train that may have reapplied due to the auxiliary reserves having been slightly overcharged. Holding locomotive's brakes applied. If the releasing explained above is determined to hold the locomotive is applied after the brakes are relieved, the handle will release backing the holding instead of the running position. Releasing the locomotive brakes fully move the handle to the running position, leaving it there and graduating them as the circumstances there require the successive movements between holding and running position. Emergency. To apply the brake emergency, move the handle of the automatic brake valve quickly in emergency position and leave it there until the train stops at the dangerous pass. Independent brake valve. When using the independent brake only, the handle of the automatic brake valve should be carried with the running position. The independent application may be released, moving the independent brake valve handle to the running and release position. When all the brakes are applied automatically to graduate off entirely, release of the locomotive brakes are only once used for the release position. The independent brake valve. The right hand one of the air gauge will show at all times the pressure of the locomotive brake cylinders, and this hand should be watched in the brake manipulation. Release position. The independent brake valve will quickly release the locomotive brakes under any all conditions. If the locomotive is coupled to a train, locomotive brake reapplies them after release, making a kickoff of the automatic brake valve by moving the hand quickly from the running position to release and returning to the running. This is really the reason for the reapplication of the pressure chamber, the distributing valve being the charge higher than the brake pipe, causing the equalizing slide valve to move into the service lap position, closing the release pipe, preventing the release of the application cylinder pressure with the brake valves in the running position. Releasing with the independent brake valve the release position under those of the condition release the locomotive brake will not be insured against reapplication. General, the train book should invariably be released before the detaching locomotive holding on the handbrakes when necessary, especially with the important but on the grade with the otherwise no assurance for the cars and cars of the trains are detached with the start with the air brake leak as off as they may be short time whether there is considerable leakage. The automatic brake should never be told with the locomotive train while the standing even where the locomotive is detached for longer than 10 minutes, not with such a time if the grade is very steep or the condition of the brake is not good. The safest method is to hold the handbrake only and keep the auxiliary reserve fully charged so that the guard is against a start from the brakes leaking off to be readily to obtain any of the part of the full braking and set immediately in starting. The independent brake valve is importantly safety for this connection. It would hold the locomotive in the quite very heavy train of the fairly steep grade, even if it has an automatic brake as a release. The slack is prevented with the running in and out, depending on the tendency of the grade, giving the locomotive a start. When leaving the locomotive while doing a work about it, and when standing, always leave the independent brake valve in the application position. After the emergency application of the brakes while running over the road due to any of the causing other than intended the operating of the engine men, but move the brake valve handle to the lap position to prevent the loss of the main reserve pressure. After the train stops, the cause of the application should be located with the remedy before proceeding. Before leaving the roundhouse, the engine should try to brake with both brake valves and see that no serious leaks exist. The pipes of the train, the distributing valve, the brake valve should be absolutely tight. The valve's safety valve operation adjustment should be invariable to be tested at this time and also to rival the terminal and need with the adjustment made. Otherwise, the necessary emergency application may give too little or too much holding force to determine adjustment of the safety valve. Place the automatic brake valve handle in the emergency position. Note on the brake cylinder gauge the pressure at which the safety valve opens, which should be 65 to 70 pounds. Return the brake valve to the lap position. Note that the pressure at the safety valve closes. The safety valve should be adjusted to 68 pounds. It is assumed that this test will also be made in locomotive alone. This is before all the brake pipe is connected to the train. Changing ends. In changing from one end of the locomotive to the other, they first apply the automatic brake valve, then lap, and then move to the lap position. After closing the double heading cock and the brake pipe underneath the brake valve, remove the handles, place them on the brake valve at the other end of the open and open the double heading cock underneath the brake valve to operate. Always close the double heading cock before removing the brake valve handles and place the handles on the brake valve before opening the cock. This cock. Double heading. When two locomotives are coupled together, the brake pipe of the main reserve single pipe, the equalizing pipe, the hose must be coupled in between the two of the locomotives and their cutout cocks open. When there are two more locomotives in a train, the instructions already given remain unchanged so far as the leading locomotive or locomotives from this, which the brakes are being operated, is concerned. On the second locomotive, not having transfer valve, the double heading leak of each of the brake valve, the handle automatic brake valve at the running position, also cut out with the safety control features. If used, the handbrake of the second locomotive can then be operated from the first locomotive is the same as those of the train in the train, but the engine man on the second locomotive finds it necessary, he can prevent the application of the brakes on the secondary locomotive by placing the independent brake valve in the release position. Also, if the brakes on the second locomotive are applied, there is a danger of overheating the tires. The drivers should be slide the brakes and can release by moving the independent brake valve to the release position. Reapplying later is necessary, and using independent brake valve handle is in the usual way provided with the handles. The independent and automatic brake valve on the second locomotive is before left in the running position after the operation. This does not in any way interfere with the brakes on the second locomotive being afterwards released with the first locomotive. In a usual way, the pressure of the brake cylinders on the second locomotive should never be reduced, however, except where absolutely necessary. And deadheading. When the locomotive is to be hauled with the dead end of the train, the hand of the locomotive and one independent brake valve at the running position, close the double heading of each brake valve, opening the dead end cock, and also cut off the safety control feature. If used, the locomotive brakes will then operate like those of the car and the train. If for any reason it is desirable to keep a maximum brake power for each or such a locomotive lower than the standard, this can be accomplished by reducing the adjustment with the safety valve. Of the distributing valve can also be reduced at will by the independent brake valve. The number 14 EL brake equipment arranged for multiple unit operation with the H5B and H5BR relay air valve.